in SQL, remember we're going to say the table from the table name, and then we usually alias the table afterwards, right? So it's actually backwards in LINQ. Here's my kind of alias for the table is P in that list. Okay, so it's the ordering of things is a little bit backwards from what you might have seen. The next thing I want to write is join. So I'm going to say join C in db.blog comments. Okay, and then I need to say on to give my join clause. So I'm going to say on p dot blog post ID word equals c dot blog post ID. Okay. This is a special kind of exception when you're working with LINQ. We use the equals keyword in our join constraints, our join clauses. We still use the regular equals in our where clause, but in the join, the double equal sign in our where clause. But in the join clause, we're specifically going to use the keyword equals. Okay. So that will join those two tables together. So the next piece I want to do is maybe to order it. So I'm going to say order by. And I say, well, let's order by the posted date and ascending order. And then by the blog post ID and that order. Blog post ID and ascending. Okay. So remember in SQL it's DSC. In LINQ you do have to spell out descending completely. There's no shorthand. Now the other thing I may actually want to add in here, because I have these blog comments, I actually probably want to also sort them by their IDs. So I'm going to sort these, in fact, first by the date of the comment and then by the date of the post. So p dot comments, or sorry, c dot posted, descending. That's going to mean I get the most recent comments on the top, and then I would say c dot blog comment ID. So it's going to sort first by the age of the comment, and then by the age. Oh, well, no. Oh, that's wrong. I should be sorting it by the post first and then the comment, because I want all the comments to be grouped with the same post. And if I did it the other way, the post would not be grouped together. So I group the post, sort it by the post, and then sort it by the comment. Okay, so that's my order by clause. One thing to know here too, remember in SQL when you write order by, is there a little bit of difference here between this order by and the SQL order by? There's a space, right? So in SQL it's order space by, but in LINQ it's just all one word. Okay, so that's how I write that first part. And then at the end, and this is where I kind of told you, hey, it's going to be backwards. The select clause actually comes at the end. So at the end, I want to say what columns do I now want to give as my output. So what I'm going to give as my output, I would like, let's see. So from the post, it would be nice to have the title. It'd be nice to know when it was posted, as well as the text of that post. Okay, and then from the comment, I want to know who wrote it, what time they posted the comment, and the text of the comment. Now, what you'll notice here, do you notice how both of these are in red underline, posted in text? Okay, that's because this object that I'm trying to create would now have two posted fields, right? We'd have two called posted, two called text, right? I can only have one property with a given name. All the names have to be unique, right? So what I need to do is just rename those columns. In fact, I'm just going to rename all of them. So I'm going to rename this as post title is equal to p.title, post posted is equal to that, post text is equal to p.text, comment author is equal to that, posted, and comment text. Yes?
So is that like the as keyword?
Yeah, this is just like doing an as, right? I'm renaming p.title as post title. Yes, that's effectively what I'm doing there as I'm doing an as. So for a link query, the thing to know, yes, you do have to have a from and you do have to have a select. All the other clauses, just like SQL, are pretty much optional. Okay. So from and select, the rest in between there, you can have a where, you can have an order by. If I wanted to put a where in here and say maybe where p dot blog post ID is equal to 3, that's what it would look like. So if I only wanted the comments for post 3, I could put in a where clause like that.
So would we do the paging here too? Or?
So the paging you cannot actually do in link. Okay, there is no way to do the paging portion of that in the link syntax. But what you can do, now that I've run this query, I've kind of built this query up and saved it into posts and comments. I can then add the paging to that. So I can say posts and comments is equal to dot skip, and say maybe I want to skip the first 3 items and then take the next 3. Right? So that would give me the second 3 items. That makes sense? So I can add that in there, but I still have to use the method syntax to do the paging part of that. There's not a way to do that directly in the link. I do have to do the methods, which is part of why I said let's start with this, because at the end of the day, you have to still write that either way. Okay. So I'm going to grab all of those, and I'm just going to toss that for now. I'm going to toss that into view bag. So view bag dot comments is equal to posts and comments. Or maybe I should call it posts and comments. I'm just going to call it comments. Okay. So that's the way I would build up a link query here. Let me go to the view. Actually, why don't I just create a separate view for this? That's going to make it easier to test. So if I go to blog, I'm going to add in here. I'm going to add a new view. I'm going to call it posts and comments. Now I'm just grading this as basically a test. So posts and comments, use a layout page. So I'm going to say at the end of here, I'm going to say return view So basically I'm skipping over the rest of the code in this to just kind of see what this would give me. So I've got all the data in ViewBag comments. So that's where I'm going to pull it out of. So I'm going to say for each our item and posts and comments, or sorry, and ViewBag comments, let's spit out a div with each of those things. So give it a little bit of margin and border, border dark, and maybe margin 1. Okay. For each of these, I want to give out, I want to show some of the fields. So maybe this would be item dot post title, item dot post posted, I'll just put these on separate lines just for testing purposes. So I'm going to give this comment author, so comment posted, so quick layout should give me just a way to output the information that we pulled. Object does not contain post title. Well, I have a post title. There it goes. There we go. Let's put a breakpoint in there. Go to the index. I have a post title.
So you need a get method for the page?
But I do. I have one. This is the index. Okay. So one thing I may have to do, because typically when I go to a view, I typically have to have a model there. So I may actually need to extract that to a model. Let me go ahead and let's extract this to another method. So I'm going to call this posts and comments. And just move it up there. So I'm not polluting my index for now. But I think the thing I need to do is I need to actually, rather than this being an anonymous object, it probably needs to be an actual object I've defined. So in the model folder, I'm going to add a new class. We're going to call it log. Call it blog comment view model. And I'm just going to add those properties that I had already kind of defined here. So public string post title with a get and set. And I know that posted is a date time, so I need to change that data type. So post posted and comment posted, both are going to be date times. So that's my data types there. And what I'm going to just switch over here is say select new blog comment view model. Oh, and that's a date time question mark. Okay, so I've got that view model there. So now I'm creating these view model objects instead of an anonymous object. I think that if I run this, I'll have less issue with this now. Slash blog slash posts and comments. There we go. So that's what I wanted to see.
What did you do in the controller in the last part?
So the only thing I changed in the controller, instead of saying select new, I said select new comment view model. So rather than creating anonymous objects, I'm now creating objects of that type. That's enough to make it happy. It does look to me like it's still not giving me my borders. There we go. I just need to have border in there. And I probably want that M2. Yeah. So if I border M3, I should have something like this showing up, right? So what you'll see is, obviously I've got the article duplicated, and I've got here's one comment, here's another comment, right? So that's one tool I can use when I have multiple tables, right? That's one tool I can use. I can do a join like that. But really, how would I like it to be? I'd really like it to be grouped so that I can see here's the article and here's the comments that go with it, right? Ideally, I'd want to see the comments that go with the article. Does that make sense? So, joining is one method. The other method I can use to do this is what's called a navigation property. And this actually makes the process a lot easier. Because you can kind of see where that would start. There's a bit more that would have to be done there. So what you do in order to get a navigation property is to both sides. So remember, we've got a foreign key between blog posts and blog comments. So a blog post can have many comments, and every comment only has one post. Does that make sense? So I add these what we call navigation properties to both ends. So here I'm saying this is on the comment. I'm saying it has a single blog post. Here on the post, I'm saying it has multiple comments. Okay. You can see that? Because there's a one-to-many relationship there. So those are the two properties you need to have there. I'd actually would recommend changing this to an I list instead of an I collection, because it will make life easier. And in some cases, this is necessary. So on this side, this magic property here will actually let me get to all the comments that belong to that post. Similar thing, this, if I have a comment object, this will let me get to the post that it belongs to, without having to potentially, if I set it up right, without having to make another trip to the database, potentially. It all depends on how I set it up. Okay. So this is an easy way to get to related data. Okay. One thing to know, you want to make sure you mark these virtual. Anytime you're having a navigation property, make sure you mark it virtual. That's to support some of the stuff that the framework does. So when you actually pull an object from the database, it actually using a subclass of my class here, subclass of blog comment, subclass of blog post, to implement what we call lazy loading. So let's say I'm asking for all the blog posts, right? Is it necessarily guaranteed that I want the comments that go with them? It's not. So I might want the comments, I might not want them. So the way these navigation properties work normally is they're what we call lazy loaded. They're only loaded when you need them. Okay? So until I ask for the comments, it won't actually load them from the database. Once I access this navigation property, then it'll go make another trip to the database and get the comments. Same thing here. This will actually not be loaded until I ask for it. At that point, I'll do another trip to the database. Does that make sense? So those are not loaded until I ask for them. Okay, and that's the normal way that it's set up. Normally, by default, it will be lazy load. You got to make sure it's virtual to make sure all that works. But with that, with just adding those navigation properties, I'm going to go into my index view. So we've got blog index. So here's the end of where I have my section for all the text that's in the article. I'm going to put another HR here. In between there, I want to show the comments. So the way I'm going to do that, I'm going to start this being in a div, because I may need a container of some sort. For each var comment in post dot blog comments.
What is that, HR?
I had an HR, well, it's at the end of the article. You may or may not have that. It was separating my here leave a comment section from the article. So the point is I can do this for each now, and I can loop through this navigation property that's been added and show each of the comments. So let's say I want to show each, I'm going to put a div around each of those. Good kind of rule of thumb. What do I want to say? I want to say maybe who said it and when. So I might say, let's say we write out first who said it. It'd be comment dot author name, or maybe I want the time. Comment dot posted. I'm just going to put these on, again, separate lines to keep it simple. Can make it look more fancy, but I just want to show what we can do here. So I'm just going to spit out that data like that. So let me go back to the home page, and what you'll see, there's my comments. Right. So navigation property is going to make it very easy to just get related data like that, because you just access it and loop through it, and it's automatically figures out what data goes with it. It automatically travels through those foreign keys and figures it out. Okay. Any questions on this? Does that make sense? You add a navigation property to both sides, to the model class, and then you can literally just go do what you need to in the view to display the data. Yes?
You are recording this, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
I think I missed the first minute or two, but I did record most of what we have. So that's the big part to remember. Now, as I said, by default these are lazy load, right? So let's say I have 10 posts that I'm showing on a page, right? If I have 10 posts that I'm showing on a page, how many trips to the database do I have to make now to get all my posts and all my comments? How many trips do I have to make to the database? We'll have to make one trip to get all the posts, right? And then for every post I show, this right here is making another trip to the database, right? To access that navigation property. So if I show 10 posts, I'm making 11 trips to the database, right? That's going to be expensive, okay? And it's going to grow with the more data that you're showing on the page. So what we can do is, rather than making this in 11 trips, we can do this in one with what we call eager loading. Eager loading says, go ahead and load the data right away rather than waiting to load the navigation properties, because I know I'm going to use it. Okay, I know I'm going to use it, so go ahead and load it. So in order to enable that, let me go to the controller. Adding it is relatively easy. So after this db.blog post, again, I'm in index, I'm going to say .load, and I just tell it what the name of that is that? Oh, no, it's include. .include, and the name of the property that I want to include. So in this case, it's blog comments. So by putting that one line in there, it will go ahead and load the comments ahead of time, because I've told it I need them. So go ahead and load them when I get the post. Don't wait for me to ask for them. Does that make sense? That will reduce how many times we have to go to the database to get data. And the name, the string that I'm putting here, that's simply the name of the navigation property. So if I look at the, actually, I might have the wrong name there. Yeah, so the name of this property is blog comments. That's what I need to put up there. If I call it comments, called navigation property comments, then I need to say comments. If I'd say other thing, I need to put other thing there. So it will work just fine without that. But the thing you need to know is there's a big performance difference between eagerly loading it and not eagerly loading it. So, any questions there? Give you some intro to navigation properties as far as how we show them. Okay, so I'm going to